Try It Out Loud, a podcast by Chasing the Rainbows with your host, Bernice Quisenberry.
This week's podcast episode is Infertile Out Loud, and it is with Jackie from Minnesota. Welcome back, Jackie.
Hi, Bernice. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. And for listeners out there, Jackie has been on our podcast before, season 2, episode 9 and 11. So catch her story, catch infertility and sensitivities we did together. So, listen in on those. But Jackie is our Minnesota state ambassador with Chasing the Rainbows, and she's also one of our chasers and support mentors. So we are so lucky to have Jackie in our corner and, behind us and supporting other lost parents. So thank you so much, Jackie.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of Chasing the Rainbows. It's been great for me too.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, Jackie, I'd love for you to share like where you're at in your journey with our listeners, what currently is happening, anything that you want to.
Yeah. So I'm like trying to remember kind of like where we left off before, but I have switched clinics. I'm local now in Minnesota. I'm not traveling for treatment anymore, which is great. And then we have done frozen donor eggs is what we've kind of like chosen to go with right now. I had taken a job that offered me infertility coverage finally, which has allowed me to do all of these things that we had talked about before. Stay local, get donor eggs, and that's just been really, it's all a roller coaster, but it's been crazy. So
it really is.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at now, just kind of waiting for treatment. I'm going to be doing, it's called like suppression medication for a couple of months of my endometriosis before we end up doing a transfer. And we'll just kind of see how that goes. I'm a little bit worried. The medication isn't supposed to be super fun, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks, Jackie, for sharing where you're at.
Yeah.
What's been going on? Gosh,
Yeah.
it's a lot. Yeah.
It's always a lot.
It
You're
is.
talking infertility, right? It's like,
oh my gosh, I know. It's always a roller coaster. I know. You can't get off,
Yeah, right? I know. There's like, we get our donor eggs and I'm like way up here. And then, you get like your end up results and you're like, oh, I'm kind of low. And then you're like, okay, but now we're going to start doing this. And I'm all excited again. So it's just.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. All that hope that like we hold on to because we need to, and it is. But then it's like some days I'm better than others, especially when holding on to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you brought up when you were sharing, about taking a job for benefits and how big that really is.
It's huge.
I know.
That's kind of like where I came up with like a podcast idea.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I bet there's a ton of other people that have taken jobs just to get infertility coverage. And then like, what other things could we be talking about on a podcast about infertility that's different than like what's currently out there? And I think what's out there is wonderful. I listen to a bunch of different infertility podcasts, and a lot of different stories have made me feel a lot less alone in what I'm doing. But one thing I don't feel like we get a lot of is like support infertility, like how to get through the holidays, how to get through your birthday. Cause like birthdays are really hard when you have infertility, and just like getting through family events or those hard questions that strangers ask you or, yeah. So I feel like starting a podcast kind of talking about like support services or like how we can help one another get through these difficult times in infertility would be really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's true, until, living it and
Mhm.
being a part of this community, it's true, Jackie. Like we see, like how good things have been over the last 20 years of advancing in our medical,
Mhm.
situations and things like that. But then we also see how it's not moving fast enough in certain areas. And it's so true. And one of them is getting fertility benefits across, universal and on the federal
Mhm.
level, because right now it's state to state with
Yeah.
which state has insurance benefits for it, unless you get a company that offers it.
Yeah.
And, it's so horrible that it comes down to insurance or not sometimes, or funding or not, if you're going to be able to
Mhm.
create a family or go down different pathways, even though this is a disease,
Yeah. It's
and should be covered.
really frustrating. It should be covered. I mean, just like any other disease is covered, but
Yeah.
you know, because it doesn't have a like quote unquote physical like um problem, people can't see it. They think it's elective, as if
Yeah.
like having a child is elective in a sense of like, yes, you get to choose whether you want, if you want to pursue having a child or not, but like you can't just get rid of like what is in your instinct to do.
Yes.
Yeah, and like what's in your heart and what you want, for your life, something that you've seen, you know, envisioned for yourself your entire life. You can't just get rid of that because your body won't do what it's supposed to do.
Exactly. And they do, starting as a young age, being in school and things like that, they're educating you in health class about, oh, if you,
Oh yeah.
sex, use protection, you'll get pregnant and all these things. And they never talk about
Oh,
loss or
no.
infertility. And, but
Mm-mm.
almost like not for any other reason than to normalize it for someone when, if this happens to you in the future, there are people out there because they never educated us. So when
Oh,
this all
right.
happens, you're like, what is this? We've
Yeah,
never learned about this in school. We just
I
learned that if
know.
we have sex, like we will get pregnant. And it's true.
Yeah, I kind of like have this feeling like that I was somehow like guided into doing ultrasound, like
Yeah.
because I was gonna have these like infertility struggles. I don't know how, but like I have this feeling that like that's why I ended up going this route because I was gonna need all of this extra like knowledge that nobody was gonna otherwise tell
Right.
me. So
Right.
like I learned all those things in school, in college courses about our bodies and how they're supposed to work and what is happening that causes things to not work and like so I had all this like background and I don't know what I would have done without that background knowledge. Like I don't know how other people
Yeah.
to like the infertility clinics even like how they figured out where to go without
Yes.
that background information that I had.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because you do, like, when they hand you, your medical diagnoses or things that are happening or your tests or, any
Mhm.
results or anything like that, to decipher it, you do need a medical degree is what I feel like, or you're Google searching everything, and
Yeah.
it's like, "What does this mean?" Or if it's, like, just outside of normal range, what does that mean? And, like,
Right.
just, looking through it all because you don't know. I
No, and none of it makes sense. And you're like, if you're to the point where you're getting like these medical diagnoses already or whatever, you're already like probably been trying for over a year. You're
Yeah.
anxious, you're
Yeah.
nervous, you're freaking out.
Yeah.
So, like one off level. I don't care how normal that level is, like you
Yes.
are like something seriously wrong. Because you
Yes.
know something is wrong or you wouldn't be there, in the first
Right.
place.
Right.
So yeah, and it's a lot of like doctors telling you like, it's normal or like that's like a normal range or
Yeah.
and the whole time you're like, but it's not something's not normal,
Yeah,
right?
something's not clicking here.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That
It's
unexplained infertility is like the most frustrating
yeah.
term because I feel like that just means like either somebody's being lazy and not figuring out like the true cause
Right.
or we don't have like the advancements yet to
To be able to do it.
understand the cause or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know it's true because in all reality, like we don't know what's linked back, what's not, what, we're able to test, what tests are being done, what studies
Mhm.
are being done, all of those things because, it's interesting because, you know, studying and research and all of that when the pandemic hit kind of took a back
Mhm.
seat with funding and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I'm really curious where we're at with all of that.
Yeah.
With funding different projects, looking at why, the numbers are the way that they are with unexplained infertility. And something that's interesting, I know we talked about this in one of your podcasts too, Jackie, is like, endometriosis is one of those
Mhm. Mhm.
misdiagnosed
Yeah.
because it does take a while and a long time to actually diagnose it and the way you go about it. And, it's kind of
Yeah.
chalked up to painful menstrual cycles or whatever it looks like, but it's not, it was endometriosis. And I think maybe starting diagnosing that early on and getting ahead, those
Mhm.
kind of things, like who knows what will happen in the future if, our medical did pick up on diagnosing these things
Yeah.
sooner.
I feel like only recently have like doctors been actually paying attention to women's pain.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because women and also like, social media and all of that, like they're finally hearing us like that
Yes.
we're like done with it. And like somebody, if you're not going to listen, I'm going to find someone who does.
That's right.
So hopefully that also means that we'll have more research because, like, most medical research is men. Like everything
Yeah.
was on men's bodies, pain medications, everything was never even tested on like women. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be getting a little bit more of that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully. Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah. Yeah. So everything, it's interesting that you said this early on too, Jackie, is you're sharing out loud and how like empowering it can be when you're in a group or in a room full of, of our community who understands what we're going through or what we're having happen, or just to talk through things with getting to the point of using donor eggs and having
Mhm.
someone to talk through that's been through it or wants to, is so important, don't you think?
I do. Yeah. So like early on in my like journey, I guess, I didn't really talk much about it because I also didn't think it was gonna be this long.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I was thinking, "Oh, this is just gonna be something that I am doing for now." Like, it's not who I am or what my whole life is about. It's just something I'm going through at the moment. And then as it kind of went longer and longer and I started like listening for like podcasts or finding Instagram accounts or um I was always pretty open like at work about it because I was working at an OBGYN and infertility clinic. So like everyone there knew like everything I'd been going through as well. Um and then yeah, I just found like that when I needed the most support, which was right before we were going to transfer the boys. So it was right when I had gotten donor embryos. Um, and I felt like that was something that not a lot of people did and not a lot of people knew about. And I really needed like a lot of support from people that had been through things like that. And that's when I made my Instagram account for my infertility journey. Um, and I don't know, I've made so many great contacts through that.
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of women that have done donor embryos, donor eggs, all sorts of different kinds of IVF treatments abroad, here, just like crazy things, that I've never experienced, but now we got all get to share our stories and talk to one another and support one another. And then I also get a lot of messages from people just saying thank you for sharing your story. You make me feel less alone. And that's literally all I could ask for. Like,
Yeah.
if I can make somebody else feel like they're not by themselves in this, then I'm happy. And I'm also getting a lot of support too. So, like, it's a win win.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know, because you would never probably, in my opinion, I'm like, Jackie, I would never see myself posting on Instagram or making Instagram reels or finding a community on a social media platform like that. But it's amazing, really, like,
Mhm.
to see what Instagram has created, with
Yeah.
this community, infertility warriors, especially on there, just seeing the community, everybody rally around one
Mhm.
another and test results and stuff. But then too,
Crazy,
like
yeah.
Facebook too. Yeah, it's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know, like, I keep thinking, like, "Why didn't I make one earlier?" Because I think by the time that we got our donor embryos, I think we'd probably been, like, on that IVF journey for at least 3 years. But,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I think that we just I remember I had to talk to my husband too, because I was like, "Man, do you care that I'm, like, gonna be sharing a lot of this stuff?" And
Oh
he
my
was like
gosh.
he's not a social media kinda guy, so
Yeah.
he's like, "If this is what you need to do, like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. I'm glad you can find the support that, you need." So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's been amazing. I can't believe how many people are on there and, like so, like, you don't always some of them are, like, anonymous, like, you don't have to necessarily show your face on them either, like, they just post, like, updates about them, or they just follow people like me, like, so
Yeah.
they don't feel alone, or they have their regular accounts and they just follow us as well, and send messages, so I might be one of the few people in their lives that knows that they're going through IVF,
Yeah.
and I'm just there to talk to them. And yeah, I'll ask them questions too, because maybe they've gone through something that I haven't.
Right.
Yeah,
I know it's true. And it's asking those questions and being with those people and really surrounding yourself with them that's really how like we get in the know of different things. Like we can advocate for ourselves
oh my
and
gosh.
really
Yeah,
educate ourselves. Yeah, it's
yeah,
true.
learned
It's
so
interesting.
much.
Yes, and it's interesting that you say because like, sometimes you don't know all the options that are out there because,
Yeah,
one, usually, IVF and infertility doctors, RNE, they don't wanna mess up, like, in their
yeah,
meeting and stuff, they don't wanna overwhelm you by saying, "Okay, if this doesn't work, then we'll do this. If this doesn't work, then we'll do this. If this doesn't work, then we'll do this." So
yeah,
they usually, like, touch, like, on 1 or 2 things, but
mhm,
then sometimes you do need to ask and advocate for yourself, like, "Hey, you never mentioned this, why? And can you just give me
yeah,
that reason?" Just
totally.
handling
Yeah.
yeah,
And, like,
understanding.
that's the person I am who like, I always have to have my plan B, like, set
Yes.
up for, "Okay, if this doesn't work, what am I gonna do?"
Right.
And I also love following, like, fertility doctors on Instagram because a lot of them will do, like, lives or they'll, like, chat and, like so for my, like, suppression medication that I'm gonna be doing, um, it was just gonna be Lupron, which is just a, IM shot you do
Yeah.
once a month for a couple of months. But then I, like, was on Instagram and I was, like, talking to this other doctor and they were like, "Oh, I always do letrozole with Lupron. Like, this is what I would recommend." And so I
Wow.
just asked my doctor, I was like, "Hey, have you ever done that?" And she's like, "I no, but I don't see why not. Let's try it."
Right,
And so I was like,
right.
"Okay, great, terrific." Now, like,
Yeah.
learned this and hopefully it's gonna be in my benefit, and, like, I wouldn't have heard of that if I hadn't had been on social media.
I know, or shared, on your journey
Yes,
or what you're going through and stuff like that,
yeah,
Jackie, because it really is. Um, and it for me too, it cuts that pain, like, that pain in half, and it keeps cutting it in half each time, like,
mhm,
feel like we're helping or sharing and
mhm.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
kind of is, like, that reason behind also volunteering with Chasing the Rainbows and doing everything that I can with you guys. It's just gives me a purpose in, like, I didn't lose my sons for no reason, there's something that has to be good, left. I always feel like there's they've impacted my life in more than just, like, a sad way, right?
Yes.
Like, they
Exactly.
definitely have brought me to you and Chasing the Rainbows and, so many other women, that I am very close to now. So I gained so much from volunteering and just being a part of everything that you guys do.
Well, it means so much, Jackie, because it's interesting that you're saying this too about volunteering. Because I know we were talking about this pre-show, but in our episode last week, we were talking about sharing out loud, and then also doing like narrative journaling and, volunteering and those kind of
Mhm.
things for different coping tools, when we are going through these losses. And it's so right, like that we may have not have aligned, our worlds may not have collided before if it
Mhm.
wasn't for, us losing Brooke and you guys losing Wyatt and Remy. And it's so true. It's interesting to see how everything kind of works out the
Mhm.
way that it does. And we're just so grateful that you are getting involved. You are involved with us, that you're doing more with the Infertile Out Loud podcast and doing that segment. And,
Yeah.
just having, that community to rally around all of us together
Mhm.
and uniting us is so important.
Yeah, it is. Definitely have like so much support with going through everything, the support groups and those women that I first got to meet, in those first few weeks. And I mean, I just feel like I owe it to them and to myself to like be that person to somebody else.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree, Jackie. I
Hmm.
know my husband looked at me, after losing Brooke, and he just goes, this can't, like, something good has to come out of this, kind of like what you were saying, Jackie, like, this can't be it. Like
Hmm.
this, and I still hold on to that because it's like, yeah, like all of our babies lost all together. Like they're all doing, all coming together. Like we're doing things in honor of them and to really
Yeah.
keep their legacy going and
Yeah.
living on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Giving them a voice. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, well, Jackie, yeah. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about your podcast and, you getting it started through Cried Out Loud and doing your segment. It's so exciting.
Yes. It is very exciting. I mean, I know it's just in its very early stages of brainstorming and all the things, but I'm really excited to um, get some people, other people who are, going through infertility and like, learning their coping mechanisms and, just
Yeah.
learning everything I can about their stories. And
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I am too. I think it's going to be great. Yeah. So if there's anyone out there listening that would want to be on the Infertile Out Loud segment or any segment with our podcast, please reach out to us on our website and we'll
Hmm.
get you all connected. We have podcast applications and things like that. If you want to fill that out, that's great. You can find it
Yeah.
all on our website under our podcast. But yeah, I know, Jackie, it's going to be amazing having you on here to talk to, other warriors and
Yeah.
just be
I'm
a great
happy. I'm
resource.
excited too. Yeah. If you guys need to reach out just on Instagram, I'm there too. And I'll always answer messages. I'm happy
Oh,
to.
thanks so much, Jackie. Well, and thanks so much for getting on today, sharing more about, what your involvement is and what Chasing the Rainbows and also, where you're at with your journey. And thanks for all you're doing to advocate, for, us fellow loss survivors. Because, we can't do it alone. So it means
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. Happy to do it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Well, thank you for tuning in and please follow and subscribe to our podcast to help us reach as many loss survivors as we can. We are always with you, fertility loss, pregnancy loss, and infant loss survivors. Until next time. Thanks again, Jackie.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.